which is a poem that tells a story. It's a poem that tells a story. An example of a narrative poetry is an epic. Right? Example of that is Biag Nilamang, right? A famous epic of Ilocanos. Another example of that is Mahabharata, which is the longest epic in the world, originated in India. Next is the lyric poetry. So when you say lyric, this is full of sentiments. It's a poem that is full of sentiments. An example of a lyric poetry is a sonnet. And a good example of a sonneteer is in the Philippines is Ofelia de Malanta, and in the world it's William Shakespeare. And then we have dramatic poetry. So this is a type of poem in which it's supposed to be performed on stage. The focus here is the exchange of dialogues between characters in the poem. So these are the different types of poetry. Basic information. Let's add more to this. Now here are the literary elements that you must also focus on in order to write a good literary analysis. So here are them. Here are they. Number one is the setting, which I think you know. This refers to the place and time of the story. Characters, these are the people or the animals doing the actions in the story. Of course, there are many types of characters. There's the protagonist or the hero. There's the villain or the antagonist, right? There are also different types of character. Let's say there's a round character, meaning to say this character is full of emotions or has a wide range of emotions and motivations, versus a flat character that only showcases or displays one type of emotion or one type of personality. Other types of character, we have static character, meaning to say this character does not change throughout the story, versus dynamic character who changes throughout the story. So for example, at the beginning, the character is, let's say, bad, and then towards the end of the story, she changes her heart and becomes an ally of the hero. We also have conflict, which is the problem in the story. And there are 4 types of conflict. Number 1 is man versus self. That is, he is his own enemy. Okay? Or the hero, his enemy is himself. Maybe he has some psychological problems or, some mental health problems that he is dealing with. Next is man versus man. So his opponent is another character in the story. Another is man versus nature. His opponent could be a typhoon, could be a volcanic eruption, could be a flood, or could be animals as well. Could be, let's say, lions or beasts. And then the last one is man versus society. The opponent of the hero is society itself. Maybe the society is is despotic. They have cruel leaders. It's a racist society, and the society discriminates against black people. And then let's move on to plot. Plot is the arrangement of events in a story. Okay, how does the story begin? How does it end? There are different types of plot. Number 1 is the linear plot. Okay, so you can expect the story unfolds predictably. Okay, so for example, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Freytag's pyramid. Freytag's pyramid is like the story mountain. So the story begins with the introduction, where the characters in the setting are introduced in the story. Sorry, you call that exposition. Okay, so the first part is the exposition. Characters and setting are introduced. Next is the rising action, which is a series of events that lead to the climax of the story. So that is rising action. Climax is the highest point of the story, where the emotions are at the highest, where let's say the hero confronts his enemy, and they're fighting. Next, after a climax, is the falling action, which is a series of events that lead to the resolution. And of course, obviously, the resolution is the ending or the conclusion of the story. Now, Freytag's Pyramid is under linear plot because the series of events is predictable. Another type of plot is non-linear plot. And when we say non-linear, the series of events is not predictable. The story can begin in the middle, and then it will have a flashback, and then it will go back to the middle, and then it will have a flash forward, and then go back to the beginning, etc., etc. So it jumps from one event to another event unpredictably. That is non-linear plot. And then the third one is the circular plot, which means that the story will start and will end at the same place or at the same time. So, for example, the story begins in the middle. It will also end in the middle. It just completes a full circle. That's what we mean by circular plot. Now, there are also plot devices that are asked in the exam. For example, there's a term called in medias res. In medias res. How do you spell that? I-N, medias, M-E-D-I-A-S, and then res, R-E-S. What's the meaning of that phrase, in medias res? It means in the middle of. It's a plot device in which the story begins in the middle. An example of that is the story of Oedipus Rex, if you're familiar with that. That is written by Sophocles, one of the Greek tragedians, a writer of tragedy. So the story begins in the middle. We call that in medias res. Another is called Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex Machina. How do you spell that? D-E-U-S E-X and then Machina. M-A-C-H-I-N-A. Deus Ex Machina. What's the meaning? It means something like divine intervention. Just think of it as the story of Cardo Dalisay. You know Cardo Dalisay? For 7 years, that series has lasted, right? Because Cardo Dalisay always gets saved by another character. Instead of dying, he always gets saved. So it's exactly a demonstration of Deus Ex Machina. For some reason, the hero is always saved by another character or by a situation. Now let's move on to mood. Mood is the emotional atmosphere when you are reading a story. So, for example, you're reading a horror story. Sometimes you would feel goosebumps. You would feel some cold. You feel some cold sweat in your back of your head, your nape, your joints, your legs. It's because of the words, especially the descriptive words that you are reading. Because once you read the words, you automatically imagine, or there are pictures painted in your head of what's happening in that story. So that creates like this physical, neurochemical, and physical reactions in your body. Next is the point of view, which is the perspective in which the story is told. There are 3 types of points of view. Number 1 is first-person point of view, in which the pronouns used are I, me, myself. Second is the second-person point of view. The pronouns used are you, yourself. And the third-person point of view, would use the pronouns he, she, it, they, them. Right? So these are the different points of view or perspective in which the story is told. Next is the language. Did the story use some figurative language or figures of speech? Maybe simile, maybe metaphor, maybe alliteration, maybe, let's say, hyperbole, personification. And then the last one is the theme, which is the central message of the story. All right, so basic literary elements of any literary pieces that you must understand before you write a literary analysis. All right, moving on. Let's move on. So how are we going to write the literary analysis? Here are the steps. Obviously, you have to write the introduction first. In your introduction, you must capture the reader's interest. Now, how do we capture the interest of our readers? The techniques that we use in writing a blog, right? For example, using a quote, using a story, using an interesting fact can also be used to capture the attention in literary analysis paper. Next is writing the body. So the body can be composed of several paragraphs depending on the requirement of your teacher or depending on the length of your analysis. But make sure that every body paragraph contains a topic statement. A topic statement is a sentence that contains the main idea of your paragraph. And this main idea must be supported with examples, with explanations, with illustrations. And next is the conclusion. And here, what you can do is to re-emphasize the topic statement. So you're going to, you will refer back to what you've written in the introduction, just to make sure that you close the loop to make the audience remember what you've said in the beginning of your analysis. And last part is the references, again, to avoid plagiarism. All right, so that is all about the literary analysis. Now let's talk about another type of paper. This time, it's called a political analysis paper. Now, usually this is discussed by political science teachers or assigned by social science teachers. But this is also asked in the previous exam, so it's better if we discuss them. It's better if we discuss it. Okay. So again, what is a political analysis paper? Well, it's an essay which answers a question about certain political process or event or even policy, and can also predict future developments. For example, you can mention some political issues. Let's say the recently concluded election. Let's say issues with PhilHealth, issues with what else? The miseducation of the Filipino youth. Let's say the impeachment trial of Sara Duterte, the incarceration of former President Duterte. What else? The wars happening in the world, in Gaza, in Ukraine. So these are some political events or issues that can be discussed in a political analysis paper. So if you're going to teach this to our students, here's what we have to tell them. All right, number one, they need to have vast understanding of politics and political affairs. As simple as that. Because if they don't care about politics, if they do not watch news, then they have nothing to write about. Their cup is empty. So what you can tell them, your students, is to, assign them to read the news, reflect on what they've watched, what they've read, what they have listened to, and make it a habit for them so that they continue to, be informed of what's happening locally and abroad. Next is you can also have them conduct an extensive reading and research. This could be a group work. If they do this, then they can share their thoughts, their ideas with one another. They can refine their original ideas because they've heard a much better idea from their classmates. Next one is knowledge on the parts of the political analysis paper. So what are the parts of the paper? Just like in literary analysis, there's introduction, there's body, there's conclusion, and there's references. It's pretty much the same, but obviously the content is different. Next is objectivity. So when writing a political analysis paper, there is no room for subjective statements. What I mean by that is there's no room for pure opinions. Okay? All their statements must be based on facts, must be based on evidence, must be based on their research, what they have read. That's what we mean by objectivity. Next is citation and referencing. Much like the literary analysis paper, we need to cite, we need to reference any original ideas so that we are not committing plagiarism. Formality of the tone, it means that when we say tone, it refers to our attitude towards the topic or the subject matter. So what should be the attitude or the tone of your students toward the subject matter? Are they, let's say, are they in favor of it? Are they not in favor of it? Are they, let's say, critical of the issue? Or are they more, let's say, consultative? They have a more consultative tone or maybe a more peaceful tone. So what we want here is more formal tone because the one reading the paper is the teacher, the professor. So they expect formality in the tone. Next is clear, concise, and well structured. These characteristics, they also belong to the 7 C's of effective communication, if you remember. So there is clarity, there's conciseness, and there is structure. Because this is, again, a written form of written communication. So the 7 C's must also apply in this paper. And the last one, clearly defined tone. So again, this is tone. Make sure that your attitude towards the subject is not wishy-washy. What do I mean by that? It's not half-baked or it's not half-hearted. If you have a certain attitude towards the topic, then that attitude, the tone must be definite. Okay. If you're in favor of, let's say, impeachment, then that tone must be consistent all throughout the paper. Okay. You must not there's a saying, you must not sail in two rivers, so to speak, or in Tagalog, wag mamangka sa dalawang ilog. So it's because that's going to be confusing for the readers. All right, so that's what we have to know about political analysis paper. And in addition to that, let's talk about academic presentation. Because, well, we are teachers, obviously. Most of the time, we're going to present to our students. So, this is a very important endeavor that we have to do. We have to be familiar with. So first of all, this is the definition of academic presentation. It's speaking to a group of people, usually our students, because we want to make a point, we want to inform them, we want to educate them, we want to share some facts, some details that can improve their lives, that can improve their knowledge or their skills. Okay, aside from that, the things that we have to remember when it comes to academic presentation are the 3 P's. So what are the 3 P's of academic presentation? Number 1 is planning. What do we plan when we are presenting academically? We plan for the objectives, our audience, and the content, right? So what is your objective or your purpose for the presentation? Are you going to inform, to persuade, to argue, to educate, to entertain? Next, who is your audience? Are they elementary students, high school, college level, master's degree graduate students, are they out of school youth, etc. And plan for the content. What will be included in your content? Let's say purpose of communication. What's going to be included there? Are you going to include the kinds of barrier, the process of communication, the nature of communication, communication for different purposes, etc. So these are the things you have to plan for. Now, the next P is prepare or practice. So what are we preparing or practicing? First is the content, next the visuals, and last is ourselves. In terms of content, we prepare the content by organizing the content depending on the objectives and the time given to us, right? Make sure the organization is logical, and make sure that we practice the content several times before we present. You can practice the content by maybe memorizing the key ideas and then trying to improvise when it comes to examples. Next, prepare or practice the visuals. So let's say you're using a PowerPoint presentation, make sure that you have selected the right images that correspond to your message or to your topic. Make sure that you have formatted your presentation, you've chosen the right color scheme, what else? The right fonts, etc. And then we prepare and practice ourselves. I'm not sure about you, but in my case, when I prepare, I look at myself in the mirror and I pretend that I'm talking to my audience. That's one way of preparing myself. Another way is by recording myself with a video camera. Let's say I would turn on my Zoom and I would record myself and pretend that I'm speaking to my audience. So the benefit of recording is that I get to play it back so that I could pinpoint exactly the things that I need to work on. And then the last P is present. So this is the actual presentation. So here we have to concern ourselves with the equipment, eye contact, and the queries from our audience. Of course, equipment first. Right before the presentation, make sure that your equipment is set up well. Make sure that the microphone is working. Let's say the Zoom is working. There's no static with the sound, or the video is not buffering. Your signal is strong. That the slides are moving. Another is with the eye contact. If it's face-to-face, make sure that you establish eye contact. If not with all of your audience members, but majority of them, you're able to look at them and see them. Make sure that you look at the left side, the right side, and the middle. That can also because if you establish eye contact, you relate more to your audience, and you also notice whether they're listening to you, they're still paying attention to you. And the last one is queries or questions from the audience. It's important that questions from your audience are answered very well and adequately, because that establishes or confirms, reinforces your credibility. If you're able to answer the question well, you get the confidence of your audience. They will trust you, and they will rely on you, and you're probably gonna get a very good feedback from them. All right, so these are the 3 P's of academic presentation. And what else? Okay, now speaking of teaching, since we're all teachers, a very important topic is storytelling. Why? Because according to research, storytelling is a very effective technique to capture the attention of our audience, to reinforce what the students have learned in class, and it makes the engagement really fun. It makes the lesson much more relatable. That's the power of storytelling. So I implore all of you to use storytelling as much as you can whenever you do presentation, because of the benefits I mentioned. Now, here are the things you have to remember about storytelling. Of course, there's a structure to a story. And I mentioned the structure a while ago, right? The Freytag's pyramid. It begins with exposition, rising action, there's a climax, falling action, there's the resolution. You must also use descriptive language, meaning to say language or words that evoke the right emotions or imagination of your audience. They must stimulate the sense of sight, sense of hearing, taste, touch, smell of your audience. Next is the story must have curricular connection. You don't simply select a story with no link to the curriculum. Make sure that whatever is stated in the curriculum must be whatever the goal of the curriculum must be achieved through the power of storytelling. All right, so you must find that connection whenever you choose a story. And then the last one is interactive storytelling. So it means that you're not the only one telling the story. What you can do here is ask the participation of your students. Make them your characters in the story. Make them the trees, make them the storm, make them the enemies, make them the villain, make them the heroes of your story. In that way, you're not the only one who's spotlighted, but every student has a chance to shine in the story. So that's what I mean by storytelling. All right, so that is the end of our discussion of purposive communication. And I hope that this is the road that you will take, this is the road that you're going to drive, you're going to walk on, and you will be successful by September. Thank you, everybody. Now, it's not yet done. We're still going to rationalize the test. All right, so I'll just give you a few seconds to relax. All right, thank you. Let me just end this, and let me just pull up my other slides. Okay, if you have questions, you may type your questions in the Q&A while I'm pulling up my other presentation. 1 second, please. Okay, there you go. There you go. Let me share this, make it bigger. I hope you can see my presentation. All right, let's begin so that we can end on time. All right, let's go to number 1. Okay, what do you think is the answer? First of all, in tackling questions, you must always underline, highlight the keywords in the STEM. So what keywords in the STEM can we underline or can we encircle? First, sounds. Okay, it says here little obstruction, meaning little block only in our vocal tract. So what do we call these particular sounds? Okay, is it the consonant sounds, the phonemes, morphemes, or vowels? The correct answer, these are vowel sounds. Okay, what are the vowel sounds? A, E, O, if it's Tagalog or Filipino. Right? If you notice your vocal tract or your mouth, they're open. So there's little obstruction in the vocal tract. Versus if it's consonant, there is obstruction. Like a ba, da. So that's not the correct answer. Now, I mentioned a while ago phonemes. Phonemes are the basic unit of sounds. Now, morphemes, these are the basic unit of meaning. That's morpheme. Basic unit of meaning, morpheme. Phonemes, basic unit of sounds. All right, number 2. What are the keywords here? Okay, the word rancor. Okay, I showed this word to you a while ago at the beginning. I hope you still remember. The correct answer here is bitter. Good job. Next. Okay, what are the keywords here? Please or entertain. Please or entertain. What type of literature is this? The correct answer is it's fiction. Remember fiction? It's created by the writer's imagination, usually to please, to entertain, to amuse the readers. Okay, report, editorial, nonfiction, they are written usually to inform the readers, not to please or not to entertain. Next, who is considered the most outstanding among Filipino playwrights in English? Okay. This is something probably new to you. But first, let's tackle the STEM. So when you say playwright, it's a person that writes plays, right? Maybe stage play. Now the question is the most outstanding. So we can also say the most prolific playwright, Filipino playwrights. What is the correct answer? Correct answer is letter B, Wilfredo Maria Guerrero. He's the most prolific. He's the one with the most written playwrights among Filipino in English. So that's why he is the correct answer here. Leon Maria Guerrero is known for translating Rizal's novels into English. So that's his contribution. He translated El Fili and Noli into English. Severino Montano is known for his arena theater, in which he brought theater to the masses. So that's Severino Montano, arena theater. And then Carlos P. Romulo is a diplomat, a senator, and also a UN leader, the first Filipino and the first Asian to be elected at the United Nations Security Council. Right? Next, William Sidney Porter. What is his pen name? Pen name of William Sidney Porter. So here we're talking about some literary figures in English. This is not Mark Twain. Okay, Mark Twain is known for his novels, the famous novels Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. Right? His full name is not William Sidney Porter, or his full name is Samuel Langhorne Clements. Right? It's also not George Eliot. Okay, George Eliot's full name is Mary Ann Evans, and it's also not Longfellow because his full name is long. The correct answer is O. Henry. Longfellow's full name is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. There you go. Okay, let's go to number 6. Who's the monarch of England known for strict adherence to morality and also known for didactic literature? Okay, first of all, what's the meaning of didactic literature? It's a literature that is heavy on religious or moral lessons. Okay? Heavy on religious and moral lessons. Okay, that's what we mean by didactic literature. Now, who's the monarch or who's the Queen of England during this time? The correct answer is Queen Victoria. Okay, it's not Mary, it's not Sophia, because there are many monarchs named Mary, Sophia, but they're not related to didactic literature. Queen Elizabeth, who reigned from 1933 to 1603, during her reign, arts and literature flourished, but not specifically in terms of didactic literature. The one known for that is Queen Victoria, where strict moral standards are were observed by the people of England. Okay, number 7. Who's the author of Gitanjali? Of course, that is Rabindranath Tagore, no? The first Indian to be awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. And the English translation of Gitanjali is Song Offerings or Song of Offerings. That is letter C. Okay, number 8. Keywords here, set of rules. Set of rules. I mentioned this a while ago. So if it's a set of rules, what do we call this? The correct answer is a system of many systems, which I mentioned a while ago, right? That is language. It's composed of many systems like vocabulary, grammar, and sounds, and each of them is a system in itself. Next, okay, what are the keywords here? Perceive, comprehend, and then produce and use words. So what do you call this? It is not communication, because we know that communication is to share or to make common. It's also not phonology, the study of sounds at the abstract level. So B or D? The correct answer is, it is letter B. It is acquisition, right? Phonemic awareness is the awareness of phoneme, or the basic unit of sounds. Okay, number 10. Keywords here, larynx, lips. So these are physical organs of the body responsible for creating speech or producing speech. So if these are physical properties or organs of the body, what type of study is this? This is phonetics, the study of sounds at the physical level, right? Because you can see the larynx, you can touch the you can see your larynx through an instrument. Same with your lips. That's phonetics. When you say morphology, this is the arrangement study of the word formation or the arrangement of words. Next, what is the Latin term for communication? Obviously, that is communicare, letter A. All right, number 12, the father of classical communication. Very easy. The correct answer is Aristotle, right? Known for ethos, pathos, and logos. Cicero, Protagoras, these are philosophers. Cicero is Roman, Protagoras is Greek, and Sophocles, as I mentioned, the writer of Oedipus Rex. He is a Greek tragedian or a Greek playwright. Next, which is not nature of communication. Not nature. I mentioned 4, right? 4 aspects of the nature. The one that's not included here is letter D, right? It involves 2 people. Not correct, because communication involves 2 or more people. Number 14, the basic function of communication according to the 3 experts, Hermosa, Hernandez, and Vergara. I also emphasized this a while ago. If you remember the nature of communication, that communication is multifunctional. And major function of communication is social interaction. That is correct. Letter C. Okay, let's go to number 14. What are the keywords? Shoulder to cry on, pep talk, encourage, little push. So these are all positive words. Positive words, which refer to motivation. Letter C. Okay? It cannot be emotional expression or appeal because this is a neutral phrase. It could be positive, it could be negative. But motivation, it has positive connotation. All right, let's move on to number 16. Keywords here, put into words. Okay, so what do we mean by put into words? Meaning to say, you convert your thoughts, your ideas into words. So you convert. What is that for? So you convert, it means you encode. That's another word. You encode your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings into meaningful signs, symbols, or symbols, signs, symbols, or sounds. Next, keywords. How the sender conveys the message. Conveys. Another word for convey is to transmit. So correct answer is letter C, transmitting. 18, the word salvage. Okay. For Filipino, salvage means to kill someone's life. But for Americans, it means to save a person's life. So they differ in meaning. So what's the correct answer? It is semantic barrier. Difference in meaning. 19. Okay. What do we call this? Keywords first. Stood between them. So Sarah stood between two people talking. So Sarah is acting as a barrier. What kind of barrier? She is a physical barrier. Am I correct? Yes. Right? She is a physical obstruction between the two people talking. Next, 20. Keyword, channel. I mentioned the synonyms of channel. We have medium, we have mode, what else? We have way. So the correct answer here is letter D, communication mode. Next. So keywords here, himself. And then singing, is Janus talking to someone else or not? He's not talking to someone else. Therefore, what type of communication is that? It is intrapersonal. He's simply reminding himself. He's talking to himself. Letter A. Okay, 22. Keywords here, global. And then 15 countries. What do you call? It's called international communication. Right? International communication because it involves 15 countries. When you say interracial, the people talking are of different race, right? Let's say one is Asian race, another, let's say a Chinese race, the other is Ethiopian race. And then when we say interethnic communication, the people talking are of different ethnicities or ethnic groups. Let's say one is Mangyan, the other is Igorot. Right. So that is interethnic communication. Next keywords here: laptop, HD camera, and then video conferencing. So these are technological tools. What do we call this type of communication? It's called mediated communication, right? Because they use technology. Another word for mediated is what? If you remember, extended communication. Okay. Now, when you say digitized, it means that the information is converted from analog to digital platform. When you say modernized, communication has adapted to modern standards. And when you say integrated, the elements of communication have been combined. So that's why mediated is the best answer. Next, keywords, manager speaks with another manager. What do we call that? They are of the same position. They're both managers. So we call this horizontal communication. Same level, same rank. Okay, next. Keywords. Paralanguage. Okay, first of all, what is paralanguage? Paralanguage can be referred to as your vocalics, or the sounds that we create, but these are not words, okay? These sounds are not words, but they have meaning. For example, if you laugh, ha 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 ha, or oh, so you're creating sounds, but these sounds are not words, but they have meaning. That's what we mean by paralanguage. Okay? So what else? Oral, it says here oral communication. So what is the best answer if there's oral communication? The best answer is declamation. There you go. Next, what do we call pauses? Okay, another term for pauses, I mentioned this a while ago. This is a characteristic of spoken English or spoken language. Another term is juncture. Okay, juncture. When you say rate, this is the speed of speech, how slow or how fast you talk. Next, keywords. So you have your hitchhike, and then you put your thumb up, which I demonstrated a while ago. What type of gesture is that? That is emblem. Okay, emblem. Number 28, keywords. So Annie is speaking with her cousin. What type of proxemic or distance is this? So in terms of relationship, they're cousins, they're relatives. What do you call that? It's personal distance. All right, since they are relatives. Next, here we have a mother tickling her son with a teddy bear. What do we call this dimension of touch? It's called instrument of touch. Why? Because the teddy bear is the instrument used to touch or to tickle her son. Okay, that's what we mean by dimension of touch. Next, beso-beso. Sheila shared the beso-beso with an acquaintance. Okay, so take note of the word acquaintance. Is acquaintance different from a friend? Yes. Acquaintance is someone you know, not necessarily your friend. So what's the right touch category of touch here? The correct answer is social, polite only, since it's with an acquaintance, not with a friend. Okay, next is, okay, let's look at the keywords here. Smelling. There you go, smelling the flowers. So this should be obvious. The correct answer here is olfactory, which is under nonverbal communication. Next, the keyword is staring. So you're using your eyes. Your eyes are fixated on someone. So what do we call that? That's eye gaze. Another word for stare is gaze. When you say dilation, this is when your pupils get large or get smaller. Okay? They try to contract. Next, keywords. So you have spacious, and then you have order of seats. Spacious and order of seats. So based on the keywords, you're looking for space. Okay, so we can already eliminate B as well as C. What else are we looking for? Order of seats. What's another word for order of seats? Arrangement. So we are looking for letter D, space and physical arrangement. Okay, 34. Here we're talking about model of communication. It says here, newer media forms like social media. So what type of model is this? I mentioned this a while ago. When you're chatting with your friend or sending a text message, usually the reply takes much longer, right? Because it's in a social setting, not in a business setting. What model is that? That is interactional model. Meaning to say the feedback is not necessarily fast. Okay, next. Here, Carl, waiting in line and then listen to a Christmas song. Is he talking to someone? No, he's simply listening to a message from a service page. So in other words, Carl is not talking to someone. What type of communication is this? That is linear communication or one-way communication. Okay. Next is 36. You have keyword here, exec. And you have the transactional model. So where do we use transactional model again? In what setting? Business setting. And what type of feedback is given here? Is it fast or slow? If it's transactional, it's fast, it's deliberate. But we're looking for exec. So what is the correct answer? Correct answer is letter C because of the word no, which is wrong. Because transactional model, there is immediate interaction. All right? Okay, let's move on to 37. Keywords here, valedictory address, so this should be easy. The correct model here is the one used by Aristotle, so that is letter A. Next, OTW, which means on the way, but this is a code between William and Charles. So since they're using a code which the two of them can understand, what do we call this model? Okay, the correct answer is Osgood-Schramm's model. There's a shared understanding of meaning. All right. Next, here we're talking about divorce law, in which Ray and Val have different opinions. So this is pretty obvious. Correct answer is letter C. Different perspective or views. Okay, 40, maybe it's different from your end. Maybe letter D is, the letter D completeness is not written in your test paper. So kindly correct that, because the correct answer in number 40 is letter D, concreteness. Why? Because of the keywords. What are the keywords? Solid facts and credible sources, right? Maybe in your test paper it's written as conduciveness, which is not among the 7 C's of communication. So kindly correct what's written in your exam paper if it's different from what you see on the screen right now. Okay, let's proceed to number 41. We're talking about Catrous's concentric circles. It says here not belong to outer circle. So what is the answer? This sign why? Because China belongs to circle X and circle. Alright. This is 42. You see words, ma'am, sir. Okay, which are polite riddles. So these words belong to formal register. Next, speaking. I mentioned this example a while ago. A function of formal and informal sorted. Okay, number 34, the word which is a jargon, a terminology, which means adult teaching. So this is called a jargon, obviously. Letter B. Next, jargons. The correct answer here is the longest, which is letter A, which is actually true, right? Example word ESL, EL, they convey hidden meaning, which can be understood to people who belong to the same, right? Belong to, say, English department, you understand NL, but if you go to the math department, you do not understand what EL and EF mean. Next, what's the meaning of which is also a jargon? Just so this is in relation to language that we use when we are mentioning our message, our words. We try to use some letters. Letter A. Next, not effect. So this is say we're looking for jargon. What's the positive? Longest and again, that is letter A. It is also true. Allows to share information effectively, right? So that communication is efficient. It's not true. Following is letter A because the is structured. Format, next is you see the word territory. So what kind of they should command you. You see the word territory comes to mind should be infrastructural sign. Next is not a characteristic of multimedia. Correct answer is letter A. Why A? Because of the word manually. This is wrong. This is all right. 51. Series of separate sides. So it's very easy. It's the one I'm using. This work on presentation. Presentation which and right. So that's the of Z. This we have Pechacucha. So is B A small talk. Verb become or part of become by so what we call that? It's called global village. All right. Words here divided attention. So this should be used to you. Other word attention or focus is present. So A is the 55, not characteristic of information. Included is the word tele. Is the word answer. 6. Here we have Belle, Marianne, and Donnie Panguna, actors of ABS-CBN. So what persuasive technique are you using? You're using popularity. What we call that ethos. Remember, it's appeal to credibility or appeal to character popularity. Next, we have word thus. And this belongs to warrant or conclusion of documented Next is the first principle of easy. You see the first step is one. Okay. You can pursue your friends. Step next or step last is and or 9. Analyzing audience. We're talking about analysis. Why do we do it? Because all of the above. So as much information about your audience so that you can deliver effective presentation. Because you're on the correct answer is your words to say you're already ending on the answer is done. Letter A. 2. Okay, so the word check and reduce. Right? Evan is reviewing the what is the answer there? It's not notes. Correct answer is interim process way. Because you are reviewing some that are trying to look in notes. To look at initial notes. You say you look at the initial notes anymore. Reviewing what they were. Not the interim process stage. Okay. There's the answer. 6-3. We were here decided to make an operation. Okay, so does this first does arrange to a plan or you have what is distribution easy? Correct? Answer I mentioned three of these a while ago. One is letter B, locating destinations, because it's not the tour guide that usually it's the tourists themselves who locate destinations. Okay, 66, what usually used, convention, right? It should answer the H question. What the five size in a book? Mention this as well. The money leader go. There are two parts of money leader. You have premise and the punchline. And the right. Uh, example of a joke. I hope you laugh. So, why did this what's the punchline? Here's the punchline. Okay. It's fine, right? Next, why did you on an airplane? Punchline. Why did you punchline? There you go. Very funny. Right. Now, why would we repeat that so? What do you think punchline? There you go. See, I told you. Okay, good. Now let's go to stage. Agree. We also discussed this a while ago. I showed this to you. The answer is that the topic can be published anytime. That's the next one. So this too. The answer here is let's say that it is source, personnel, and one platform. Okay, 17. Which does a correct answer is because there is no such thing. There's no such thing as limit. When you use speed, you use such a as BYE, which is composed of headline, byline, the first sentence or the lead, and then that lead is clickable. There's a hyperlink, and when once you click that, you would see the whole article. That is called news bite, not news bits. All the others use lead to capture the attention of the audience. Okay, 71, not a characteristic of a blog. We know this already. The correct answer is it cannot be live streamed. 72 says here, persuading future possible buyers. So look at the recipients. They're not yet full-fledged buyers. They're still being convinced by a company. So it takes a while for them to buy or to subscribe. What do we call that email? It's called lead nurturing email. All right. Next is 73. Keywords here, invisible. So this should be easy. If your email addresses are invisible, therefore this is BCC or blind carbon copy. Next, this is pretty long, but what's happening here is that someone is asking a question, the other is answering the question. So this is an interview, letter A. 75, not true about the three basic communicative events in interviewing. The correct answer is the longest. Why? Letter A. Because the role is reversed. The interviewee should be the one answering the question. The interviewer should be the one asking the question. Right? 76, in a census, what information or what type of interview question is asked? Okay, it's the background or demographic information, such as how many family members live in this house, what's their educational level, etc. Okay, 77, what should be included? Minutes of the meeting. The one that I encircled a while ago, the one that I highlighted, the one that you should not forget if it's minutes, That is motion raised. Okay, letter D. Okay, 78. Our keywords here, data presents. Data presents, result of a study. Based on those keywords, we can already eliminate analytical reports, recommendation report. So is it A or D? The correct answer is letter A. It's informational report. Because again, when we say informational, it only presents data, statistics, figures, research findings, right? If it's a case study analysis report, then there should be a mention of specific number of participants and the analysis of their characteristics. But there is no mention of that in this item. Okay, 79, type of informal report, and then you have the word viability, which I also mentioned a while ago. So viability refers to feasibility report. Okay, 80. Here we're talking about block style or block form of letter. Okay. It says here, we're looking for modified block style or modified block form. So I have to tell you that there are three styles or forms of letter. Okay, one is modified block. If it's modified block, there are three components of the letter that are aligned to the right margin of the letter. What are those three components? It's the date line, the complementary clause, and the signature. So the correct answer here is letter C. So that is the modified block style or form of a letter. Three components, date line, complementary clause, and signature are aligned to the right margin. Okay. Now let's discuss the different other styles or forms. Okay. The easiest one to remember is the full block style. Why? Because every component is aligned to the left margin. So you don't have to think anymore. Automatic. Everything is in the left margin. Next style is the modified block style. If you notice, the date line, okay, the closing, as well as the signature, they're aligned to the right margin. Okay? And then the last style is a semi-block style. It's similar to modified block style. The difference is that if you notice the first line of every paragraph, there is an indentation. Right? There is an indentation. That is the difference. Right? Next, let's go to 81. Punctuation mark used in a business letter in the salutation. If it's a business letter, try to avoid using a comma. The one that is standard to use is, what do you think? A colon. 2 periods. So the correct answer here is letter D. Alright, 82. Basic parts of a business letter except. What can you see in a business letter except? Can you see notations? Yes. Can you see signature? Yes. Can you see salutation? Yes. What you don't see is usually attention line. Alright, 83. Our keywords here. So there's a former professor whom you know, somebody you know, and then you send an application letter. So we know this. I hope you know this. The correct answer is unsolicited application letter because the company itself did not advertise. You only know about the job from a former professor. Next is most popular, the easiest. You're not going to think anymore. So the correct form is the full block form. Alright, 85. This is quite tricky. Our keyword here is Miss Universe 2015, Pia Johnsey. Before she got married, her full name was, her real name was Pia Wurtzbach. But because she got married already, she adopted the last name of her husband. She's now Pio John C. So the question is about what's the right courtesy title to use in the inside address. So obviously we have to use the new last name, her married last name, and we're going to eliminate letter D because it's too informal, too casual. We can also eliminate letter B because there's only one, Pia Johan C. So the best answer here is letter C, the one with MRS dot, because we know that she's already married. Letter C. Okay, number 86. Here, we're being asked the type of resume, which is organized around various kinds of experiences and achievements. If it's organized based on experiences and achievements and not based on dates, the type of resume we're looking for is functional resume. So a functional resume is useful if you have employment gaps in your history. Maybe for 5 years you did not work because you got sick. So in order to avoid that or avoid that to be seen by your employer, you try to organize your resume or use a functional resume format. But if you don't have any employment gap, the best format to use is chronological resume because you get to organize the content of the resume according to the dates of your employment. Okay, next is 87. Keyword here is brief. Another word for brief is concise. Another word for concise is succinct. So the right answer here is succinctness, letter B. 88. Characteristics of a resume exec. They should be easy because it's not comprehensive. It is concise, right? It's composed of 1 to 2 pages only. 89, it's fairly long, but what's happening here is that Taj Mahal is being described. So what type of text is this? This is a description text. It uses a lot of descriptive language, language that appeals to different senses. Next, we have keyword seminar, and then you have asking for funds. So what type of paper is this if you're asking for funds? It is a project proposal. Next, 91, you have the word love, which is set off in quotation marks. So it tells us that love is considered a concept which needs to be defined and explained. Therefore, this paper is a concept paper. Okay, let's go to 92. And they say that there is a heart, the concept paper has a heart, meaning to say its main part. What is the main part or component of a concept paper? Obviously, the definition of the concept or the term. So the correct answer is letter A. 93, what is the first step in making a good critique or reaction paper? The first thing that you have to remember is to know the writing assignment well. Okay. Now, why is that the correct answer? Because you have to understand how many pages should you write, okay? What you should include in your paper, how many number of words, or what is the word limit for writing the critique or the reaction paper. So these are, the requisites before you start writing the paper. Next, one important guideline for writing position paper or something that you should avoid is what? The use of subjective statements or pure opinion. Because what we want in a position paper is factual information. 95. Okay, so you have grade 11 students. They're going to write an argumentative essay. What's the most important thing for them to consider if it's argumentative? You have the approach, you have the design, you have the technique. And the biggest concept there is the approach. So the best answer is letter B. Next, central idea or universal truth. This should be easy. The correct answer is the theme. Okay, 99, As You Like It, Harry Potter, The Chamber of Secrets. There's a seemingly unsolvable problem, but suddenly and abruptly, it's resolved by unlikely occurrence. So someone is saved accidentally, all of a sudden, just like Cardo Dalisay. So you call that Deus Ex Machina. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, 100. Okay, the question here is aspect of a novel that focuses on the use of sociological approach, meaning to say, trying to study or examine the novel in terms of its social norms, its customs, its traditions, beliefs. What do we call that lens? We call that sociological lens. But what's the correct answer? Correct answer is political and common conditions of Filipinos during Spanish era. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for staying with me. Those who